In 60 seconds, voting ends in elections which could send shockwaves through the political parties. On the Question Time panel, Paddy Ashdown, Liam Fox, Fiona Phillips, among others. It's too late to vote, but watch Question Time and see what our audience makes of these interesting times. Question Time, 10:35, after the news.
And now with the BBC 10 o'clock news on BBC One, Huw Edwards and Louisa Preston.
Tonight at 10, the polls have closed and Gordon Brown already faces potential trouble. Before a vote is counted, one of Mr Brown's MPs tells the BBC it's time for a secret ballot on his leadership.
We ought to be able to have a ballot in the Parliamentary Labour Party to see if the Prime Minister has confidence of the party.
Barry Shearman is the first Labour MP to demand a vote of confidence in Mr Brown. We'll have the details. Also tonight, President Obama in the Middle East with a tough message for Israelis and for Palestinians.
Let there be no doubt. The situation for the Palestinian people is intolerable. The United States does not accept the legitimacy of continued Israeli settlements.
The men who brutally murdered 2 French students, but one of these killers should have been in jail on the day it happened. 20 years after the violent Chinese clampdown in Tiananmen Square, a vigil is held in Hong Kong, but no ceremony is allowed in Beijing.
In BBC London News, a serial sex attacker is jailed for life for a string of assaults in the capital. And is this a dip in popularity for the mayor as a river cleanup turns dirty?
Good evening. The polls have just closed in the local and European elections, and before a single vote has been counted, the Prime Minister is facing a public challenge to his leadership. Barry Shearman, one of Labour's senior backbenchers, has told the BBC he wants a secret ballot of Labour MPs on whether Mr Brown should continue. But tonight, more ministers have come out in support of Gordon Brown, but there has been a dramatic development in the past few minutes, so let's join our political editor, Nick Robinson, at Westminster.
In the last few minutes, I have spoken to James Purnell, the Work and Pension Secretary. He is resigning from the government in order to force a leadership ballot. He is calling on Gordon Brown to stand aside for the good of his party. It is a dramatic development. His letter of resignation has been printed in tomorrow morning's Times newspaper and in The Sun. And let me just read you a couple of extracts. Dear Gordon, he says, we both love the Labour Party. I have worked for it for 20 years. And you for far longer. We know we owe it everything, and it owes us nothing. Mr Purnell goes on, I owe it to our party to say what I believe, no matter how hard that may be. I now believe your continued leadership makes a Conservative victory more, not less likely. He goes on, I am therefore calling on you to stand aside, to give our party a fighting chance of winning. As such, I am resigning from the government. Mr Purnell goes on to say that he is not seeking the leadership, but that the question should now be put. This dramatically changes the odds on Gordon Brown surviving as Prime Minister on a day when that has been in real question. How much longer should Gordon Brown stay in number 10? That is the question the Labour Party is now being forced to address. Thanks to the resignation of the Work and Pension Secretary, James Purnell, who, unlike previous cabinet resignations, is clear and explicit. He wants the Prime Minister to go. Tonight, a senior backbencher, the chairman of the School Select Committee, Barry Shearman, says that many Labour MPs think his time is up.
I think there is widespread disquiet about his style of leadership. He's had good chances to show that he's got the real qualities, and I think he's come out lacking some of them. So I think we're going to have a vote, and if we do have that vote, we'll get a new leader.
MPs, though, should not be forced to denounce their leader in public, he says. They should instead be given the chance to give their verdict in private.
I'd like a secret ballot of the Parliamentary Labour Party to see if Gordon Brown still has the confidence of the party.
Would you expect that secret balance to back Gordon Brown, or to ask him to step aside?
I think he would be asked to step aside if people were allowed a free vote.
And how many...
After Hazel Blear's surprise resignation yesterday, the question was who would be next. Surely the rumour went it would be her friend, the Europe Minister Caroline Flint. Tonight, she made her position clear, after, I'm told, some indecision. And she is backing Gordon Brown.
I am staying in the government. I have spent, my entire ministerial career for 6 years now, serving both Tony Blair and now Gordon Brown. And I'm very proud to be in a Labour government. I'm very proud to be part of Gordon Brown's Labour government.
Ministerial opinion has hardened for Gordon Brown today. One cabinet minister told me the timing and manner of Hazel Blear's departure was a dream for Gordon Brown. She forced people to make their minds up, and the answer is no. Another told me people have looked over the precipice. They've decided it's too ghastly. It's simply too unpredictable. Today, voters had their chance to give their verdict not on Westminster or Gordon Brown, but on who should run county councils and the European Parliament. But every political leader knows they're the biggest test of public opinion this side of a general election. A guide to how big a crisis the Prime Minister faces.
We as political classes are going to get a clip round the ear tonight and a very clear message from the British public that they want the expenses system at Westminster fixed and fixed fast, and they want us to return our focus and our fire on accelerating the economic recovery. And that's exactly what Gordon Brown is focused on doing.
Before he can do that, Gordon Brown faces the problem of reshaping his cabinet in a way that doesn't make his problems even worse. The Community Secretary, Hazel Blears, has already resigned. So too has the Home Secretary, Jackie Smith. Tonight, the future of the Chancellor of the Exchequer, Alistair Darling, is still in doubt. His friends believe that he would rather leave the cabinet than be moved, as Gordon Brown's advisers want. Today, the Prime Minister had a message to the owner of a rather famous black Rolls-Royce. You're hired. Sir Alan Sugar's unlikely to agree to be a minister, but looks set to take on another role. After tonight's news, time does appear to be running out for Gordon Brown.
Nick Robinson's report there. Just to recap for those of you joining us, the dramatic news tonight, the Work and Pension Secretary, James Purnell, is resigning from the Cabinet. Let's join Nick Robinson once again. Nick, you were saying this changes everything.
It changes everything, yes, because it is now explicit. It's clear, it's in the open. This is a direct challenge from a serving cabinet minister who has resigned not in code, not silently, not with a nudge and a wink, but explicitly saying to his leader, you are the problem. You will stop us winning the next election. You will ensure a Conservative victory. It is a direct challenge to Gordon Brown's leadership. And as such, he is now saying, James Purnell, to the rest of his party, let's stop the code, let's stop the nods and the winks, let's stop the private chats, let us make our mind up about Gordon Brown's leadership. Up till now, you see, Huw, everyone has been waiting for someone else to take the first move. The problem the Labour Party faced is many of them felt, very many of them felt, that they would be better off without Gordon Brown as leader. All of them, though, feared individually the cost to them if they were actually the first to say so. Well, James Purnell has taken the brave decision to be the first, while insisting that he doesn't want to be the leader himself. He will now wait and watch, as we will all, to see how many people follow him. But this is now no longer a debate that can be ignored or dismissed by the Prime Minister himself.
And just a thought, Nick, that of course there have been important elections today. We won't get the results of the European elections until Sunday night, but by Monday, surely the picture will be much clearer.
Yes, because then the Labour Party will be able to see whether it is in the hole that the opinion polls have suggested. Remember that we have seen opinion polls with record lows for Labour, with the suggestions that they might come behind the UK Independence Party. Now, of course, if that is not borne out when the votes are cast, people may turn to Mr Purnell and say, well, you didn't get it right. You are now on the backbenches. You are a figure we'll ignore. If, however, those polls, though, are vindicated, if there is a verdict from the public, Labour MPs will now have to confront the question that the Work and Pension Secretary, or the ex-Work and Pension Secretary, has posed. Do you really think we can win with Gordon Brown, or in truth aren't we doomed if he stays?
Nick, if there's any more in the next half hour, we'll be back to you. Thank you very much, Nick Robinson there at Westminster. By the way, for all the results of the local elections as they come in England tonight and, of course, tomorrow, you can visit our website. That's bbc.co.uk/news. The results will all be posted there for you and lots of analysis too.